Now, one of the first things you're going to want to do before you begin the project is read the instructions that come with it carefully. Okay? You might want to read them twice if you've never done a garbage disposal before. Today we're going to change out our old garbage disposal and install a brand new Evolution Select made by Insinkerator. Now, the reason we're going with this garbage disposal is it got great reviews, and it's a quiet disposal that has stainless steel blades, but most of all, it comes with a 4-year warranty. Now, we're going to show you what comes in the box. So, of course, open the box carefully and take out all of the material that's in it. You're going to see that it's well packed for shipping. You know, save the container, save the packing, just in case. That's my motto, just in case. Everything is always just in case. Now, in this box here labeled AA, you'll find all of the parts that you're going to need to install this garbage disposal. For example, you're going to get a brand new sink extension tray with a ring. I'm going to show you more of these as we go along. What's important to learn as you open the box is on the bottom you'll see these 3 screws. You're going to find these screws when you take out the old one. That's the first step you're going to do. Now, inside that you'll notice there's a ring, a little spring ring that holds the entire drain extension coming down. And so we're going to need to take that spring ring off the old garbage disposal when we take it out. I like to lay my parts down on the side so I know I got them all. These are called the tail pieces. As you can see, Insinkerator gives you an elbow one, and they also give you a straight feed in case your old garbage disposal has a straight feed. So in most cases you're going to use this elbow guide. The important thing here is you have a little handy dandy spring clamp, and in this spring clamp you'll use this to attach this piece. You'll see later in the video how to attach this piece. In addition, you get a set of screws for underneath that mount that go with this tri-ring. You notice you got a separate set of screws. There's 3 already on it. I want to spend a little bit of time on this because this part is important. And you may be wondering, why do you have 2 sets of screws? See, well, one of them is a little longer. And the longer screw is for your regular stainless steel type sinks. The shorter screw that's in this bag is in case you have an older cast iron sink or a thick sink. Then you're going to need this shorter screw. So unless you have one of those, don't worry about the shorter screws. You'll use the ones that come on the adapter. So you get all these great parts. This is the guide you need to learn. A lot of people know that this little wrench can be used to unclog a dishwasher by inserting it in the bottom and turning. What a lot of people don't know is this tool is also used in the upper ring to assemble your garbage disposal. When we get the garbage disposal out, you'll see that this thing actually fits into the disposal and turns it so you can put it into place. And of course, you get a nice brand new stopper that stays shiny for all of about a day. But we'll put that over there also. We're going to move our box out of the way, pardon my back, and while I get the new garbage disposal out. But I do want to spend a little bit of time showing you what the garbage disposal really looks like out of the box. But again, you know, a lot of websites don't tell you what comes in the box. So of course, in this box you get the ring, you get the pipes, you get the spring ring, you get the tool, you get the garbage disposal. Now, if you have an old garbage disposal that plugs into a wall receptacle, you're going to need to get a new cord for that, because the new models do not come with that. Instead, they come only with an opening. See this opening right here? Now, any electrician will tell you you need a cord connector to assemble this correctly. And a lot of people don't even know where that is. Well, that's really easy. Just go to your favorite hardware store and get one. And in case you're wondering what size to buy, they're pretty much standard. But that's why I always like to have a tape rule handy. So we're just going to measure our diameter. And we find that our diameter here is just 3/4. So we need a 3/4 wire harness, electrical harness, that will go into this hole. Remember I was telling you a little bit earlier about that screw? That screw eventually, if you have a clog, goes down in here and enables you to turn the motor. But most important, when you assemble this guy, These guys up in here, this guy actually goes right in here and can turn your ring. See how easy that is to turn? Turn that ring. Okay? The other thing you want to look at as you look at this beautiful garbage disposal, which is going to take care of you hopefully for a number of years, is take a good look at the type of blades that are in here. This one has the stainless steel blades, which should last longer than just the galvanized steel. So in a few minutes we're going to continue by taking out the old one and begin our project. Now, to do a project like this, you got to have the proper tools. It doesn't take a lot of proper tools, but you got to have the proper tools. I like to lay everything out where I can see them. Now, you saw earlier we got everything out of the box and laid it on the counter where we're going to be working. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, flathead screwdriver. I like a marking pen in case I need to mark anything. Good pair of safety glasses. You may or may not need the hacksaw. You need a putty knife to scrape off the old plumber's putty. Here's a very important tool that a lot of people think may not be that important, but it truly is. That is your wire stripper. You're going to need to put a new connection in there. You got to do it very carefully. In addition to the wire stripper, the other tool you need that's not shown is you need an AC tester, in my opinion, because you should always test and make sure that your circuit is truly dead and off when that off switch is off. Pliers, plumber's pliers work great in case you have any old plumbing that's tight, although it's supposed to only be hand tight. You saw earlier why we needed a tape rule, and of course the other thing I recommend is a bucket to put underneath when you first start taking out the old one to catch the water to avoid a mess. Now, another neat little trick that I've learned over the years in changing many garbage disposals is a good pair of safety glasses is a lot better than anything falling in your eye. And finally, you're going to need a nice light under there because otherwise it's going to get quite dark. So I like to use an LED light and put it right in there with me because that way I can see what I need to do. Now here you see where we're going to be installing our new garbage disposal. So let's show you what the typical sink looks like underneath. You notice you got this center piece right here. You also have this thing here, what I call the neck breaker. This neck breaker down on the bottom will take your neck out if you're not careful as you lay down. So what I like to do is if you've got one of these spongy rugs, you know, these spongy rugs that are by the sink, they work great in here, or get a bathroom towel and put it down. Cover this ledge right here. Of course, your first step, probably the hardest step, getting all this stuff out of here so you can actually get in. Now, before you go buy your new disposal, you need to check what the old one was so you know what you're replacing. So we did. I checked it out the other day, and it is an Insinkerator Badger 5. We're going to take it out, and of course, you can see that we don't have a plug-in, so we're going to need to move that wire cable. You'll see that Romex cable here. Let me give you a better shot of that. This is the silver cable you see right behind this fire extinguisher. This cable will eventually supply the electricity to the new garbage disposal. So the next time you see it, we're going to be working and getting this old one out. Always run water before turning it on. We know from using the existing disposal that this switch activates the current disposal. But just simply turning off at the switch is not safe enough in my opinion. So the next step we need to do, and we did this earlier, we identified which breaker will actually turn this unit off from outside on the master panel. Master panel breaker number 26 is in fact the garbage disposal. So I'm going to go now to master breaker 26, and you'll see breakers are numbered generally in the center depending on the type of panel you have, but I'm going to find 26 and move it to the off position. So 26 is now in the off position, or as some electricians would tell you, it's in the tripped position. Again, I've labeled it on the panel, so I know 26 is the garbage disposal. I'm going to turn the water on, and I'm going to repeat my on-off to turn on the on and see and hear if my garbage disposal comes on. And you'll notice that it does not. Now I'm going to turn this back off, even though the power is not coming in. Okay, so we're ready to start taking the old one off. So you'll notice I've placed a drain catch pan underneath my existing P-trap. And if you can see right here, this guy's got some what they call spring screw tension clamps, very similar to automotive clamps, here and here. I'm really just going to disconnect here and just kind of move this out of the way, loosen this one up a little bit. So most of the water probably is going to stay in here. Now, it's not a bad idea to take this guy off and clean this out at the same time, so why don't we just go ahead and do that. So you can see I've removed both clamps, just gently pull this guy down, got all the water into my catch pan, and now we're going to just do a little bit of cleanup, move some of this stuff out of. Now, if you recall earlier, I said it's a good idea to have a felt marking pen. Well, one of the tricks I learned years ago is how do I get the new disposal to line up exactly where the old disposal is without trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. Well, if I can get the 3 screws to be exactly where the old 3 screws were, I'm home free. So it's really simple. I'm going to take my felt pen and put a mark by each screw coming out. Right like that. Now I'm going to go mark the other 2. Okay, now we're getting ready to take out the garbage disposal. So we want to leave the upper ring in place. After we've marked it, we mark it with a marking pen, leave it where it is. Let's not take the screws out just yet. That's a mistake a lot of people make. So, like I said, take a marking pen, mark the 3 screws, and now you're ready to move this garbage disposal. And as I pointed out, you don't want it to fall a long way, so get a little plastic storage box, just put it underneath so it'll catch it and help hold some of the weight. Now, to get this guy out, we're going to simply take this screw and we're going to give it a little bit of twist and a pull, and you notice the ring is coming right down. Notice our garbage disposal is moving, but not the upper ring. So now I'm going to remove the tool because I'm almost off the flange that holds the garbage disposal off. You can see my garbage disposal has now been detached from the kitchen sink, and the only thing left is going to be this ring, which we're going to take off next. And you see how neat that little plastic storage is? It just kept it right there. I don't even need to carry it now. I can just slide it right on out. I got to take my wire off. Remember, we got to take that wire off the bottom. Again, let me point out the dishwasher hole, and you notice this one's still got its plug in because it never had a dishwasher hose connected to it. So if you're going to put a dishwasher hose up there, you got to take that plug out. Now, of course, I haven't mentioned them yet, but you should always read the instructions that come with the garbage disposal. This one has 25 steps, and you're done. Also known as a Romex cable coming into the actual unit. And to get those wires off, I got to get into here. Now, you notice the person who did this didn't use a connector. I will use that connector. I'll put a connector in there. So I think the connectors work better. And you're going to take this guy off, and it's going to show us our wires. So I'll just go ahead and show you that. Takes me a little while trying to do this with one hand while one hand holds the camera. So let me do it, and then we'll come back. And you notice we've got a white wire coming in, a black wire coming in. Here's that Romex cable I told you about, okay? So we're going to remove these clips. They just twist off. You know, a technique when you use these is always try to change them and put new ones in, because they're cheap anyway. You can find them at the hardware store. You may already have them in your garage, and I have found in over the years, the one thing you don't want is you don't want these things coming off while they're in your disposal. So, real simple technique. Now, of course, the wires just simply get untwisted. And we got one more wire to go. You see this green wire right here? This green wire is your ground wire that's grounding your system. So again, we're going to take that off. Just a simple Phillips screwdriver. You know, technique when you wind a ground wire, you always want to put that ground wire, around the screw hole, going clockwise. Okay, that way when you tighten, I did test it with my tester to make sure we had no current before I had these wires apart. So again, our switch is dead on the top, our breaker's off outside the box. And this guy, who has served us well for the last number of years, he's now ready for whatever. Okay, so the next step is we're going to remove the old ring and the old collar. And there's only one real tricky part that I'll show you in just a second. But for now, we're just going to take those 3 screws off. Now remember I told you this thing is being held by an O-ring. So what you want to locate is that little split. See that little split in that O-ring? I'm going to snap a little flat blade screwdriver in there, make those guys nice and wide, and my
O-ring, retaining ring, actually it's a retaining spring, will come right off of the tailpiece coming down from the sink, and then we can take the rest of this off. So you can see the spring ring fell right into my hand. Now I can take this off, and we've got that off. Now the rest of this stuff is just slide up, slide off. And in case you're wondering what that orange is, well, that's the drain strainer that my wife likes from up above. So next thing, you'll notice we've done everything from down below, and all we're going to need to do is just kind of push this up just slightly like this, get some of that old plumber's putty off. And now when I go up above, I'm going to clean out that drain, get that guy off, and we'll be ready for install of the new.
Now I wanted to show you the old next to the new, because you can see that, you know, the holes do line up. They're both in the same position pretty much. And while this unit may appear to be slightly taller, they're really almost the same size in terms of length, height. This one's a little bit wider because it does have the sound deadening sound. And notice the improved anti-vibration discharge. Okay, remember that orange light you were seeing? Well, it's really just a drain strainer that my wife likes, so we're going to get that out. We got everything off on the bottom, so we just got a real simple process here now. We're just going to lift this guy gently up. This is the old one. See, this is the old guy. Kind of beat up on the inside, dirty, filthy. See all this stuff around that edge? That's all old plumber's putty. We got to get that off. Not as hard as it looks. We're going to get that all off with a putty knife. So just simply take your putty knife or one of these painters do-it-alls. See how easy this stuff just comes off? Just gently take it all off. Get it nice and clean. Okay, next time you see it, it'll be nice and clean. Now you see I just used a little stainless steel cleaner. Got all this stuff really nice and clean. All the putty is done. Now watch out for this edge, because sometimes they can be a little sharp. But if you get this really nice and clean, and when you put that new one in, boy, it really looks like a brand new sink. Okay, what we did to the top, get all that old plumber's putty off, well, we got to do that to the bottom too, because we want a nice tight seal with our sink to avoid any possibility of any kind of leaks. So we're going to take all this stuff off, and then we're going to be ready to put the new one in. So what I like to use, you know, you get most of it off with the putty knife, but then at the last stages to get it really clean, I like just using a microfiber wet rag. Just get it really good. And there's no such thing as, oh, that's good enough. Good enough only leads to a leak, so don't make it good enough. Make it right. Okay, now I'm satisfied that I've got a good shiny sink ring underneath and on top. And at that point, I'm just going to keep my work area cleaned, make sure I've got a towel underneath the bar of the cabinet, and now we're ready to start working. I'm going to show you a neat trick up on top. Just again, we're just going to loosen these so you can see what we got here. Okay, now notice this O-ring down in here. Okay, see that O-ring? The reason I'm loosening this, by the way, the purpose of these screws is to apply pressure between the two plates, the top plate and the bottom plate. And you know, to Insinkerator's credit, they've developed a flange system to hold the new disposal, and they keep it standard on all their model line year after year after year. So you don't, that's why they say you don't really need to remove this part from the old. They give it to you anyway. And how it works is, once you get this part through the top of the sink, then this part comes here, and these screws basically pry these guys apart with a ton of pressure, and that's what keeps this in place. Now how the disposal goes on, you see this right here? It slides onto this flange, and so as it's sliding on this flange, you start down low, and as you move it, it tightens up as it goes up above. So a very simple engineering, but very smart engineering. Now the reason I'm loosening these is I want to be able to just get them down just a little bit, because I want to show you how that ring works. And here's the part where you need the safety goggles, because this spring is under a lot of pressure, and the last thing we need is for this spring to come flying off and hit you in the eye. And here's that point again I was telling you about, that you need to you need to get that guy. So you just kind of take one side, push it over. See how easy that was? I just pushed it right over while I'm keeping my thumb on this side. I'm going to work my way around until I get the spring off totally. Okay? The spring is now off. I'm going to put the spring over here. Remember, that was the first thing off. Always remember, first thing off is generally the last thing on. Now here's my second thing off. The ring with the 3 screws. Second ring, second thing off. Second thing off usually means it will be the second to the last thing. You notice I'm putting them in order. Now here's the one that's tricky. A lot of people put this guy upside down. So remember, you notice I've got it laying on my mat the way I want it to go back. And of course, now I'm here. And here's the other mistake people make. They think, oh good, I can put this in the sink. No, you got to get this little felt guy off. Because this guy goes underneath the sink. Only one thing goes on the top of the sink. And next we're going to show you the proper way to roll some plumber's putty, put it in here, and then put it in our drain. Alright, plumber's putty. Yeah, remember you bought it at the store. It cost you about $2.50 for all this stuff. It works great. I mean, it really does work great for what it's intended for. It's probably one of the oldest things out there. I remember my dad used to use plumber's putty. But anyway, just grab a nice big handful of this stuff, because you're going to need a good even thing all the way around that guy. And try to make this like a string. It's kind of like silly putty. Maybe your granddaughter might be helpful in this stage. They might actually have some fun with the plumber's putty. But we're going to roll it into a roll like this. And I have found if I use an ordinary Dixie paper plate or any ordinary paper plate and just kind of roll it like this until I get it thinned out. Now this is probably way too much, so I'm going to take some of this off of here. Because, you know, whatever we don't use in this guy, we're going to have to clean up at the end when we get done. But we don't want to scrimp either. And, okay, we got a pretty good ring here. Yeah, it's probably a little bit too much yet, right here. How do you know you got enough? Well, you want this guy to be about the size of your thumbnail. Okay, so a good yardstick, go around with your thumbnail. Kind of like this. So you got this nice and even about your thumbnail. And I got pretty close to a thumbnail there. Now I'm going to grab this guy. Remember, this is the top. This is what's going to go into the sink first, because it was the last piece out, last out, first in. Kind of like armed forces. So now we're going to put this guy down. And I'm going to stretch it just a hair. And again, we want a nice, even ½ inch going around. Now I'm taking my time so I can show you how to do this. Now a lot of this stuff, in all honesty, is going to come oozing out when we put this thing down. No big deal. We'll clean it up later. You know, I just want this to be nice and even. Again, about my thumbnail. Now if you've got a really giant thumb, then of course you got to adjust. But now you see this guy is now ready to go into the sink. So why don't we reposition the camera and show you how that will go into our sink. And then I'm going to show you a really neat trick. So once we've put that flange in, we want to press it really firm all the way around. Okay? So that our plumber's putty oozes out the top, actually, you know, kind of like, wow, look at all that stuff coming out. And the neat thing is you should see it all the way around the ring. Now that tells you you got enough plumber's putty. And remember, I said I wanted my words pretty straight with my fixture. Well, that's pretty good. Okay. And again, we got to hold that in place. So you're looking for that weight. You don't have that third hand. A neat trick, just take your garbage disposal, the new one, and lay it right on top of there like that. And that's going to hold it in place while you work underneath. First out, last in. So we've got them in order. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are going to go. How do we keep them in order? Put them all on one hand. Put them all on one hand like this. Okay? Put them all on one hand like this. Okay? And then you're going to know that guy's got to go in first, right there, that fiber washer. Okay, we're underneath now.
Remember we pushed it all the way down through and we had plumber's putty ooze out at the top? Well, guess what? If we put the right amount of plumber's putty, we got it oozing out the bottom, which is what we want. And the first thing that's going to go up there is going to be our felt washer. So we're going to put our felt guy up in there. And again, we don't need to, we're not pressing too hard because we don't have to worry about pushing it up because we got that great new garbage disposal up there helping us out already. So if you'll excuse me for a few minutes while I put the felt washer first, then the plate, and then the screws. I'll join you after I put the O-ring on, okay? We've got that O-ring on nicely, and if we do a quick review to make sure everything's in the proper place, we got that felt guy up there first. Above it, of course, the plumber's putty. The triangle with the flange coming down. See the 3 screws, how they sit in that flange? This is the actual thing that will hold the garbage disposal. And of course we got our O-ring installed that holds everything in place. So we're good to tighten this up. Remember our little trick. We marked where the screws were on the O one. So as we tighten this up and get close to being tight, we're going to turn this outside assembly until that screw here lines up with that line so that our disposal is lined up for our plumbing. I've got it tight, but I can still turn it, and I've turned it to where my screws now line up with my old dishwasher screw marks. Now they're ready to be tightened up. If you're not connecting your dishwasher here, then don't worry about it. But it's really simple to take this plug out. If you're going to put a dishwasher connection on here, take this screwdriver, pop it in there, take a little hammer, boom, 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 plug falls into the garbage disposal. Reach in, take the little plug out, you're good. Now since we're not using this, we're going to leave that alone because we want that to be closed. So do not, I repeat, don't take the plug out unless you are connecting your dishwasher discharge hose to here. We're going to get this guy ready for underneath because we're going to be making the connections. See that right there? And we talked about earlier we talked about putting that little flange guy in. So we're going to put that guy in. He goes right there. We'll take this guy out with our screwdriver. And again, these can be a little snug. Just put a little elbow grease, you get that out. Important to remember, you see this cardboard? Don't take that cardboard out, okay? Just grab these 2 wires for now. They're nice and long. They're already thinned, as they say, which means they have some solder on them, but don't worry about that. They're ready for you. Remember, there's 2 wires here, white and black. But you got 3 coming in, you say, where's that 3rd wire going to go? Remember our ground screw? Right there. Remember, we're going to run that wire clockwise around that screw when we put that in. But to hold all our wires in place, we've got to go through here. Now, ours has a Romex cable, so actually you don't really need that little guy. You can put the Romex cable in there, but I like to put that guy in, so I'm going to put that in next. And you'll see what that looks like after I get it in. That way when I put my cable in here, it'll hold it. The wires will go the other way. And this will hold that Romex cable from falling out. This screw goes on the back of this. So you put that on by bringing this back out just a hair. Put this guy back in here like this. Only goes, I mean, you can't really mess it up. So put that in the back. Put this guy on. Again, all hand tight until I see what I've got down below, because I want to be able to get to those screws. Then I just use my needle nose pliers and tighten up the ring behind. And you can see this is adjustable for my cable. The 2 wires will come out that way and we'll be good to go. The wires will come in here. I'll make the connections in here. We'll snap them all back in, put the cover back on. So see you down below when I get it all done. Put your garbage disposal where it's going to be. Run your Romex cable or the cord that's already coming in. Or if you're connecting a plug with a receptacle, then of course you make your connections here and plug it into the outlet that's under your sink. This one has the Romex cable. You notice we put our fastener on there to hold the cable in place. White goes to white, black goes to black, and our green is properly grounded with the ground wire coming in. The next step is, although it's not said to do so in the instruction manual, I'm just a little old-fashioned. I'm going to take a little piece of black electrical tape and wrap it around that cap
clockwise to hold the cap on. And then our next step will be to put the cover back on and then slap this baby up. And you notice it's kind of heavy and you got to line it up. So again, remember our trick of using that plastic thing to hold the disposal? So all I've got is about 1.5 inches, 2 inches away. Now here's the real neat trick. You see these flanges? Line them up with the screws, okay? That way when you go up, they'll be in the position of where they'll slide counterclockwise, and they'll slide up into the hole position. And what I like to do is I'll put a little book under here to get that even closer. So you see, with the books and the plastic, I can line up my rings, position them, make sure all 3 are grabbing, and now I'm going to take that tool and slide this puppy up. You basically take this tool. Remember I showed you this tool that you can use underneath the disposal? And it slides right up into this ring. Right up in here like this. See that? Right up into that ring. And then you just pull it toward you. And now I want to really show you this because you're going to have to tighten it with that tool until you actually hear a clunk, like it's because they slide over these little lock pins, and that keeps that ring from undoing itself, and now your disposal is hung properly. They're going to use the 90-degree coming out as opposed to, you know, going down and no P-trap, but we're going to put the P-trap back. So this ring is very important. If you do not use their spring ring, your warranty is void. So make sure you use this ring. Very easy to use. You can either use your fingers or a water pump plier to loosen it when you get ready to put it on. And we'll do those connections on the water. We'll do those connections under the sink, okay? Okay, now your spring clamp is going to be properly installed when you get it on that ring of rubber and the pipe's in there, and you got to make sure you have it in the right groove, okay? And check it all the way around. A slight little adjustment here just to turn it just slightly, maybe 1/8 of an inch, and how nice that fits, nice and snug, and all the plumbing is good. And now we got a nice clean drain going out to the back of the house. And of course the rubberized one, we have a spare if we ever need it. Again, reminder, we did not use the dishwasher, so do not take the plug out. Always make sure that your ring is on tight till you hear that click when you use that tool. It's tested now, okay? We're running water, and the disposal is off. Now it's going to be on. You hear it? Well, you know what? Let me turn the water off. There, now you can hear it, right? Yeah, now you can hear it. Does a pretty good job. All right, so we're going to go underneath, check for leaks. Okay, let's summarize. We changed the garbage disposal. That's right, we took out an old Insinkerator Badger 5 and replaced it with the brand new Insinkerator Evolution Select. 5.8 horsepower, very, very quiet. I demonstrated it earlier in the video. 4-year warranty. Let me just go over some of the safety features again. Make sure when you do the electrical, you make sure you turn off the power at the breaker panel. When you make your connections, take your time. Use the clamp that goes on the bottom. You got to buy one. They don't send you one. And this is the most handy-dandy tool. It's far more than just the, you know, get rid of the thing that's stuck in your disposal. Use it to tighten the disposal when you put it on. Remember some of the tricks I taught you earlier in the video where you can use a plastic thing to hold the garbage disposal up for you, a plastic bin. Always make sure you have it up there because it is heavy, it's 30 pounds, and Pops can do it, you can do it also. But most important, when you get done, reach into your sink and pull out the $130 that you saved by doing the install yourself.